I'm Kaylee, and this is my August wrap-up. I read 31 books in August. I read 3 classics, 1 children's book, 18 picture books, 4 nonfiction, 1 YA fantasy, 2 short stories, and 2 comics. So first of all, let's get started with the classics. I read the last 3 books in the Anne of Green Gables series by Ellen Montgomery. So I read Anne of Ingleside. This book is kind of a transition in the series from focusing on Anne to focusing more on the next generation, focusing on her children. We still get a lot of Anne and Gilbert, and I really love their relationship. Those two are just so perfect for one another. I adore each one of the Blythe children. They're also imaginative and quirky in their own little ways. Walter is one of my favorites though because he is a poet. And then I read Rainbow Valley. These books just never get old. No matter how many times I read them, I always love every single one of these. Rainbow Valley is about the Blythe children, but it focuses a lot on their neighbors, the Meredith family, and those children. I especially love the Meredith family because they are a preacher's family, and I'm a pastor's daughter, so I absolutely understand how those Meredith children feel. I know what it's like to grow up in a fishbowl in a church where everyone is criticizing everything you do as a kid. Those poor Meredith children, they're just vivacious and full of energy, and everyone thinks that they ought to behave like solemn angels all the time. I don't really mind that the main focus is on the Meredith children instead of on the Blythes. There are still a lot of good scenes with the Blythes and, of course, with Anne herself. And then I read the last book in the series, which is Rilla of Ingleside. This always used to be my favorite in this series, but after reading it for like the 20th time, I'm not sure that I really want to say this is my absolute favorite. I still love it, of course, but it is so heart-wrenching to read about the First World War. There is a lot of gloominess in this story, but there's humor and fun and romance too. Rilla is a fascinating and beautifully developed character. It's so easy to relate to her and her emotional journey. Walter is another favorite character because of his beautiful soul and his courage, and he's so sensitive and full of dreams. The writing for all of these really puts you into the story and just tears your heart to pieces. All of these get 5 stars. Then I read Rune Marks by Joanne Harris. Maddie was born with a rune mark on her hand, and the people in the village despise her as a possible witch. As she grows up, she discovers that she does have a small amount of magic. Most of the magic in the land died off with the old gods hundreds of years ago, but there are still small traces of it to be found. An old peddler begins to teach Maddie how to use her magic, but he has plans of his own to retrieve a magical artifact from deep in the underworld. I really loved this imaginative story. It takes some elements from Old Norse mythology, and it weaves these legends around these tales of fairy and the fae. The world building is wonderful with a really deep history, and I loved discovering the magic along with Maddie. The story starts out in this little country village, but then gradually the scope widens and widens until the fate of the entire universe is hanging in the balance. I was happy that there's no romance in this story at all. It's kind of refreshing to have a YA fantasy main character, and falling in love is not their main goal in life. I really loved Maddie's character, and I love several of the supporting characters that I can't name because their names are spoilers. But I loved seeing how Maddie interacts with them, and gradually she begins to trust them. The character development and the relationships between them is just so incredible, and it really touched my heart. It was especially intriguing because, like Maddie herself, the reader never really knows which character to trust or who might betray her. You really want to believe that character, but what are they hiding? The action and the adventure really kept me interested, but sometimes the pacing kind of breaks up the scenes in an odd way that was kind of jarring. And there are way too many POVs. I think there were at least 13 different character points of view. And it was just tiresome to be constantly switching from one to the other. Sometimes there would be as many as 5 different perspectives in one scene. It was just too much. I mean, it wasn't badly written. It was clear who each different voice was, but it was just excessive. Now, there was some profanity. There's like 5 curse words in the entire book. I didn't like it, but I can kind of see how in those particular instances it served a purpose in the narrative. It was only a few, so it didn't ruin my enjoyment of the book, but I didn't like it. And I was not exactly happy with the ending. It's like their immediate problems were solved, but there were the solutions, when you kind of imagine them going into their future lives, the solutions they come up with just seem to create more future problems. There were just some holes in the ending that didn't seem to work for me. Plus, one of my favorite characters died, and that is just not okay. Overall, it's a fantastic fantasy adventure. I enjoyed it, and I might read more from this series. This one could be read as a standalone, but it is part of a series, I think. I ended up giving it 4 stars. And now let's talk about the 2 short stories that I read. I read COVID 128 by Marissa Myers. This is a short story from the Lunar Chronicles series. This is only a few pages, but I loved revisiting these characters and seeing how they would deal with a quarantine situation. Each of them has little activities that they do to keep themselves busy, and they each have different emotional reactions to what is going on. But all of their activities and their reactions were all just so true to their character. This made my heart so happy, and I gave it 4 stars. And then I read Holidays at the Castle, which is a short story for the Castle Glower series by Jessica Day George. This is about Castle Glower in the Winter Feast holidays. The castle creates a special magic feasting room, and everyone prepares to party and feast for several days. However, Princess Celie is worried that her brother Bran will not make it to the festivities and that her holidays will be ruined. But Bran has a surprise in store for the holiday. This is a very short story. It's just a little snippet of castle life, but it has all the things that I love about the Castle Glower series. The royal family, and especially the royal siblings, work together as this close-knit unit, and I love that family relationship between them. And of course, I love the magical castle and the corridors and the rooms that move around and magically disappear. And of course, Princess Celie is just so lovable and cute. I enjoyed this very much, and I only wish that it were longer. I gave it 4 stars. And then I read a couple of comics from DC Comic Kids. I read Lois Lane and the Friendship Challenge. Lois and her best friend Kristen are entering the neighborhood bike race, but the fireworks for the festival have been stolen. Lois only wants to record the event so that she can create a viral online video. She's so focused on her project that it causes a strain in her friendship with Kristen. I liked the artwork and the cute designs. The story is vibrant, the plot is interesting. However, I didn't understand the characters in this book. Lois is up and down all the time. It's like her whole personality changes every few pages. She's annoying, she's always bragging about herself, and she doesn't even do any actual detective work in the story. Lois has a mean attitude. She argues with her best friend, she accuses innocent people, she even bullies a little girl. Overall, I'm just really disappointed in Lois's character, but the overall design of the book is good. And the basic plot is okay. I ended up giving this 3 stars. And I read Teen Titans Go to Camp. The Teen Titans have been banned from superhero camp. So this year they're going to Camp Apocalypse. The evil Granny Goodness is looking for recruits, and she's trying to undermine the heroes' friendships by getting them to compete against one another. And of course, no one is more competitive than Robin. I really liked the comedy in this story. Robin is always getting up to crazy hijinks and ruining everyone's camp experience because he is obsessed with trying to get the Best Camper award. He's always trying to prove that he is the fastest and the strongest and the best. And of course, that is a perfect backdrop for some hilarious failures. I like the pacing of the book. There's plenty of humor and silliness and action to keep your interest. And there's even some good character development, especially from Robin. The plot does a good job of balancing a lot of different characters, and we get to see little slices of each of them in each scene. And they're all memorable and fun. I gave this 4 stars. I read Hidden Gems, The Quest for the Great Diamond. Gem's parents are made of beautiful, colorful minerals, but Gem's skin is just plain gray rock. She is teased for her gray skin, and she loses her only friend. So she sets out on a quest to find the Great Diamond, who supposedly knows everything, and she will ask him why she was born as a rock when she has mineral parents. She is joined by other misfits searching for answers, and they go on a grand adventure trying to figure out the difference between rocks and minerals. I love the premise of this story. The world building is phenomenal. It's so detailed with plants and people and animals, all made from different stone and crystals and minerals. The characters are really cute, and I like their friendships. The plot has good pacing and a simple storyline that is perfect for a children's chapter book. The best thing about this book is the fantastic design and illustrations. There's a cool map at the beginning, and the end papers are colorfully illustrated list of different rocks and minerals. I loved flipping to the end papers to see the different color and textures of the different characters in the story. It really made the story special. However, the writing does have a bad problem with telling instead of showing. There are 7 or 8 plot holes that really annoyed me, and sometimes the characters act in unnatural ways. And it just made their actions unbelievable. Like, why would they do that? But overall, I enjoyed this book, and I think a child reading it would not notice the plot holes. I gave this book 3 stars. And now let's get into some nonfiction. I read Curly Kids: How to Help Your Child Care for and Love That Glorious Hair. This book details how to use the Curly Girl method, which is not to use shampoo, but to wash with conditioner. There's a lot of useful information with beautiful pictures and even helpful home recipes for hair products. Curly hair is way more sensitive to harsh products, and it tends to be more dry, so you need a lot of moisturizer in your hair. This book gives such good advice about finding sulfate-free shampoos for babies and toddlers and teens. Children's hair can be especially fine and fragile. And the tips in this book would help you to manage unruly curls, but without damaging their hair. I gave this 4 stars. I'm still in the middle of the Mega Maze Adventure, a journey through the world's longest maze in a book. I think I'm on page 4 or 5 now, and I love this activity book. It is so much fun because there are cutouts on each page where you go through into the next page. So it's one long, continuous maze. It is very cool. I gave this 5 stars, and I'm still enjoying it so much. The design is fantastic, and there are a lot of cool details in the mazes. It's really fun. I also read Unplugged Play for Toddlers. My favorite part of this book is a quote from Fred Rogers that says, "Play is not trivial. When children play, they're doing important work." I love that this book celebrates the importance of childhood play. And there are so many great ideas for simple games and crafts that are great for toddlers to do. I gave this 5 stars. And I read Amazing Islands. This book gives information about different types of islands and island locations all over the world. There are river islands like Manhattan. There are mysterious islands with ancient ruins, and even disappearing islands that are eroding away. I especially like the pages about artificial islands that are made by man. And there are factoids about animal life and history and the geography and the different cultures around the globe. The illustrations are eye-catching, and I really loved the art style. The colors are so bright, and each scene is beautifully designed. I gave this 4 stars. And then I'm just going to tell you the titles of the 18 picture books that I read. All of these got 4 and 5 stars from me. They're all beautiful, and they're just, I can't wait to share them with my nieces because they're so much fun. Little Pearl, The Mighty Silent E, Benjamin's Blue Feet, A Story About Afia, I'll Believe You When, Unbelievable Idioms from Around the World, The Haircut, Underground Subway Systems Around the World, Cherry Blossom and Paper Planes, The Walrus and the Caribou, The Stone Giant, The Sand Elephant, 5 Little Ducks Duck's First Book of Nursery Games, Rosa's Big Boat Experiment, Caribou, This Is My Daddy, Wild Week, Mummy, What's in Your Tummy, and The Wolf and the Fly. And those are all the books that I read in August. Please leave me a comment down below and let me know what was your favorite book that you read this past month. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe and remember, the right book in the right hands at the right time can change the world.